So hello everyone, welcome to Beanstalk Global in partnership with Women in Food and Farming. If you're not aware of Beanstalk, we are a platform that we set up earlier this year, looking to communicate on all items within agricultural farming and fresh produce on a UK and international basis. And we've aligned ourselves to a number of groups to assist them, especially in the odd times that we're in. And so if they can't communicate or meet up in a normal manner, we're really keen to help them do that in this novel way. This novel way being Zoom that we all love to a certain extent. So let's get into it. So who are Women in Food and Farming? If you're not already aware, it is a group of professional women in food, agriculture and the land-based industries at all stages of their careers who get together to discuss business issues, support each other via mentorship and advice, and help generate networks of contacts that might be useful to themselves and their businesses. So anyone coming in, if you just turn off your audio and your video, just because we set this up on a meeting basis on Zoom, so you can have the breakout rooms. It means that everyone there can come pile on in, but we don't want you in just yet because we've just got to go through our agenda of the day. So the Women in Food and Farming was founded by the most recent Grocery Code Adjudicator, Tacon, CBE, and the group started back in 2011 with just 5 women and has now grown to over 400 members. The group tends to meet 3 times a year, normally in London. In our current strange times, Beanstalk is proud to offer our extensive platforms to allow women in food and farming to continue their conversation and debate and encourage new members ongoing to join them, be that on a virtual basis. And on that side, if you look at the More People website and look up Claire Smith, or just type in More People Women in Food and Farming, if you're not already a member, you'll be able to see on the More People website with Claire's assistance how to join and to participate in Women in Food and Farming. So what's our agenda today? I'm going to have a quick catch up with Christine, and then we're going to move to our main speaker. And after the main speaker, we're going to have a video of some of the group who are going to be discussing their views on public speaking. And then we're going to have a short Q&A with that group. And then we're going to move into the breakout rooms. So just to reiterate again, if you want to join Women in Food and Farming, have a look at the More People website. And our speaker, really excited to speak to Sharon Kennett, who's, well, you just see she's a powerhouse in this, not only in marketing, but in this whole area of public speaking. So Christine, if you come in, please, if you could turn on your video and audio. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
So this is the second broadcast we have run. What was the view of the first broadcast with the great Anna Harris? What was the view, please?
Well, lots and lots of positive feedback. I've got one quote here that I wanted to say, because it really summed up. When Anna did her talk for Women in Food and Farming, it wasn't just her excellent public speaking ability that made it so enjoyable. It was because she related it to her own experience and made us question our own views. I haven't enjoyed a webinar as much as that for a long time. Yeah, she was fantastic. And if you want to see the record of it, it's fully available on YouTube. And we'll also, hopefully in the next couple of days, we'll have it set up as a podcast. Because what do you reckon, Christine? I think it would work equally well as a podcast. Yeah. Because she's an amazing lady. How many kids has she got? 3, 4, and this glittering career. Four children, yeah. And building a house at all the same time. You just wonder how she's accomplished what she has. But as I said to her in some of the positive feedback post that broadcast, it feels like she's only halfway through her book. We've all got a book in us. And so I was challenging her as to what her next chapters are going to be, which rightly so she refused to answer. So Christine, the subject today is public speaking with confidence. Why have you and the group selected this as the topic for today, please? Well, other bits of feedback is when we went into our breakout rooms, which everybody said wasn't long enough. So we've hopefully balanced it a bit more this time. So when we're in breakout, we have more time. A common piece of feedback was how important confidence was in all of this. People were saying, could we please have confidence as another topic? And I decided that rather than having the whole issue of confidence, we'd just take out one thing. And I knew that Sharon was able to do this as a subject, so I asked if she would speak on it. So we're going to take topic in confidence in bits, and this is our first go at it. Okay, how do you know Sharon?
Well, Sharon and I go back probably nearly 30 years when her business did some work for my husband. He had a photography business at the time, and he came back and said, I've met someone that you're really going to like. That was like the kiss of death. It took a long time, but I'm not going to be told who I'm going to like. But anyway, it took a long time for me to realise that I did really like her, and we've been extraordinarily close friends ever since. And we now live quite near each other and get the occasional walk together. Don't see each other quite so much as we used to, but I'm sure we soon will.
And yourself, Christine, you've spoken at some fairly significant events in the retail sector and elsewhere. Do you get nervous when you're going up to speak?
Yes, but I've kind of talked about this in my video. I actually think it's really important to be nervous because it focuses your brain. So I think the nerves are actually critical. And if you're not getting the nerves, I actually do things to create them.
Fantastic. Christine, stay there. Sharon, can you come on in, please? So whilst Sharon's just turning on her audio and video, Sharon, I'm just going to not embarrass you, but I just want to give everyone a bit more of an understanding as to you. So you are a strategic branding, marketing and internal communications professional with both agency and client-side experience. You've got a reputation for delivering creative, practical solutions for businesses and a very impressive career to date, including being the marketing director for the Frontier Agricultural Group, and you were behind the creation of the whole Frontier brand. So have you, Sharon, yourself and Christine, although you're not alike, you must have also been in a number of situations before when you were starting your career about being nervous in public speaking. Have you?
Absolutely, yes, and I'm going to deliver a speech this evening that I have written particularly for this group, which starts with my worst ever public speaking experience. Really?
Okay. Well, let's, Sharon, shall we get into it? Because I think everyone will be really keen to see you. Millie, can you turn off your audio and your video, please? We've set it up on a meeting basis so that you can all have the breakout room. So Sharon, I apologise if you see anyone coming in and I have to shout over you to tell them to turn off the video. But Christine, shall we both duck out? And Sharon, shall we listen to what you got to say? Because I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating. Jane, can you just turn off? Thank you very much. Okay, Sharon, over to you, please. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. This evening, I'm going to deliver a speech that I wrote specifically for this group, but I have practiced at my local Toastmasters club. I am president of Warrington Toastmasters, and we meet every week. And this is a speech I delivered there a couple of weeks ago. Picture this scene. A softly lit room full of people, all dressed up to the nines, wine flowing, music playing, the hubbub of friendship filling the air. My father stands up to speak. He's thanking everyone for coming to his 50th birthday party, telling jokes, capturing the bon viveur of the evening. I'm there too, watching, enjoying the moment, sipping my drink, laughing at his jokes. And then he comes to the end of his speech. Everyone's toasting him, clapping and whistling. I'm looking around for my mother. Where is she? Where is the cake? And then suddenly I hear the loud voice of my father's best friend. Hey, Doug, we should hear from the kids. My heart stopped. Nobody had told me I would be expected to speak. I can feel my heart beating faster. My palms are beginning to sweat as I look around for an escape route, anything that would prevent me from having to stand up and speak. And then my brother jumps up. Now, you might think that's a good thing, a reprieve, perhaps. But there's something you need to know about Jason. He is one of those people that things come easily to. Good-looking, clever, sporty, the sort of person that can hold the room, witty, charming, erudite. He can talk to anyone about any subject and make them feel special. So you can imagine what comes next. 5 minutes off the cuff about my dad, telling stories about growing up. They're all lapping it up. My parents are watching proudly, enjoying their friends, enjoying their son. He sits down to loud applause. Everyone is so impressed that someone so young can speak so well in public. And then it's my turn. Even now, more than 30 years later, I can feel those 100 pairs of eyes upon me, waiting for the next impressive performance. After all, if one child can do it, why not expect the same from the other? Come on, Sharon, your turn. Stand up and speak. I can't remember what I said in the next couple of minutes. Every coherent thought left my brain as I stuttered and stammered my way through it. But I do remember the silent pity of the crowd as they witnessed my embarrassment and their sympathetic applause when I ran out of things to say. Afterwards, my mother found me upstairs. I was upset. She said, "Don't worry, Sharon, you can't be good at everything." What do you think I did after that? What would you have done after such an abject failure? Well, if I'd known then what I know now, I'd have joined Toastmasters. But of course I didn't. Instead, I decided my mother must be right. It was obvious I am not cut out for public speaking. I should accept that and make sure I just don't try and do it again. So I spent the next 15 years avoiding speaking in public. I was fine at work, comfortable enough making little presentations, talking to small groups of clients, but I kept a low profile socially and I never spoke to a large audience. If I thought I might be called upon to speak, I kept my head down and I hoped they wouldn't notice me. That one bad experience, the first time I'd ever been asked to speak in public, gave me a fear of public speaking, making me one of the 4 in 10 of us who suffer from glossophobia. Now, glossophobia is not just nervousness. Almost everybody feels nervous when they have to stand up and speak. And actually, that rush of adrenaline that you get can be part of the fun. No, what I'm talking about here is proper anxiety caused by the fear of speaking in public. And people who suffer from it get a physiological response, an increased heart rate, shallow, rapid breathing, sweaty palms. Often people get a rash around their neck or perhaps a dry mouth and that shaky voice. The worst anxiety, of course, stops people being able to concentrate on their speech because all they can think about is the fear and the worry. And of course, all this means is they're more likely to have a bad experience, which just reinforces the fear of public speaking. There are plenty of other reasons why someone might fear speaking in public without having had a bad experience. Sometimes your own negative thoughts can get in the way. It's quite easy to think, I'm not witty enough or interesting enough for people to want to listen to me. Or perhaps you get it into your head that this presentation is so important, I can't possibly live up to the expectation. Feeling judged on your performance is enough to give anyone the heebie-jeebies. The good news is you can do something about it. I meet people every week at Toastmasters that joined the club because they were scared of public speaking. And you know, you would never know it when you listen to them. I think everyone can get to the stage where they enjoy public speaking. I love it. I find it exhilarating, empowering, energizing. And I think everyone has the potential to do it well. So you may be wondering, how did I go from avoiding public speaking altogether to enjoying it enough to take the job of president at Warrington Toastmasters? Well, if I can blame my brother for contributing to my fear in the first place, I can thank my sister for fixing it 15 years later. In 2004, my sister announced her engagement. It was going to be a proper do with a couple of hundred people squeezed into a country church, the men all in their morning suits and the rows of fascinators blocking the view of the bride. My daughter was just 3 and she was really excited to be a bridesmaid. My father, though, was unable to be there. And so my sister asked me, would I give the father of the bride speech? Now, at this point, my reluctance to speak in public was outweighed by my desire to do a good job for my sister. So I set to researching and writing a speech that would do her justice. And the first thing I did was I contacted all her friends and I asked them this question: what do you most love about Gudrun? And all the answers that came back in, I wove together into a 10-minute speech. Now, of course, anyone that's been to an English wedding knows that the speeches happen very late in the day. So I had to get through the service, the photographs, the champagne reception, the dinner. By this time, you can imagine the nerves were up here. And the groom, my new brother-in-law, got up to speak first. As I listened to him, I realised, listening to the reaction he got from the room, that it would be really hard to mess it up with such an appreciative audience. It's one of the things I remind myself of often when I'm speaking in public. Nobody wants you to fail. They're all on your side. When I started talking, I felt that catch in my throat, you know, the one that triggers the shaky voice. And I thought, oh God, here we go. And then one of Gudrun's friends shouted, "Go for it, Sharon." And I took a deep breath and I got going. That speech changed my life. About 3 minutes in, I realized I was enjoying it. By halfway, I was interacting with the audience. And by the end, I didn't want to shut up. That was the beginning of my interest in public speaking. And since then, I've put a lot of time and effort into learning to do it well, understanding how to write presentations and speeches that engage the audience, being coached and practicing a lot so that I can deliver a speech with panache, and learning how to help other people do the same. And I often get asked the question, how can people become more confident at public speaking? Well, over the years, I've developed an approach that works for me, and I try and encourage other people to adopt it too. And it's all about preparation. I focus on 3 things: content, delivery, and mindset. So let's start with content. If you're confident in your content, you're halfway to being confident in your delivery. The most important thing to think about when you're preparing your content is your audience. Work out who your audience is and why they are listening to you. And then ask yourself, what do I want these people to think, feel, and do as a result of this presentation? Answering these questions will help you to craft your message. So we'll take this speech as an example. Here I am, talking to a group of people who are interested in public speaking. Some of you may be fearful and looking for help. Others may be good public speakers, just interested in the subject generally. So what do I want you to think, feel, and do as a result of listening to me? Let's start with think. These are the facts. For the nervous speakers, I want you to think it is possible to become a confident speaker. I want you to think there are techniques you can use that will help you, and I want you to think that it's worth trying. Now let's look at feel. These are the emotions. Perhaps you might feel relieved that it's not just you that suffers. You might feel encouraged or inspired by what you've heard. You might even feel motivated to stand up and speak too. And finally, what do I want you to do? Well, these are the actions, and the ideal would be if you had a go at some of the things that I suggest. When you've worked out your think, feel, and do, then you can look at putting your content together and creating a speech structure that works for you. I like to take my audience on a journey. So in this speech, we have started with the problem, fear of public speaking. We have moved into what causes it, and now we're looking at how to fix it. And then you need to write a speech that engages your audience and gets your message across. We don't have time tonight to go into the intricacies of speech writing. I have to do that another time, but there are some techniques you can use, and I have used a few of them in this speech. So, for example, I started by asking you to imagine the scene at my father's birthday party to get you into my head and into my world from the beginning. I've used personal experience and storytelling to draw you in. I've described a problem you can relate to, and I'm giving you the solution. These are just some of the ways in which you can engage your audience. I like to script my speeches. Now, that doesn't mean I learn them word for word and deliver them parrot fashion. But scripting a speech allows you to make sure that you are completely clear about the way you want to deliver your message. It means you can work out your transitions from one point to another. You can create specific phrases or linguistic techniques that support your delivery. And of course, it allows you to refine your message over time, making sure you can deliver it comfortably without stumbling over the words. The second area of focus is delivery. Now, this is everything from stagecraft to the way you actually speak your words. And lots of people worry about this. How to stand, what to do with their hands, how to stop swaying or dancing on the spot. Everyone has quirks when they're presenting. I'm a walker, so my natural tendency is to move about the stage. And I used to worry about this quite a lot. People said to me, oh, it's really distracting, Sharon, you know, watching you walk about. And a presentation coach said to me once, Sharon, stop trying to stand still. You're spending so much energy worrying about standing still that you're actually not able to focus on what you're saying. And he taught me to use my desire to move about to support my message instead of distracting from it. So walking with purpose. For example, I might make a key point at one side of the stage, and then during a pause, move purposefully to the other side of the stage in order to start the next section. And I would do it for you today, but on Zoom, it's not so easy. The upshot is find a way to make your quirks work for you rather than letting them make you anxious. And how you deliver your speech will very much depend on your own personal style. But again, there are techniques that will help you do it with impact. At Toastmasters, we see lots and lots of great examples of vocal variety, body language, even facial expressions used to create powerful delivery. Make eye contact with your audience, even if you just pick one or two people to start with. And if you don't want to catch someone's eye, then look just above their heads, because they won't be able to tell the difference from a distance, but you will look as though you're making eye contact. For nervous speakers, the main element of delivery to pay attention to, in my opinion, is pace. We all tend to speed up when we're nervous, so slow down. If you feel you're speaking too slowly, you're probably talking at the right pace. You need to give your audience time to hear what you're saying and to absorb it as you go along. Add in pauses to help, especially after an important point. Pauses can be used as punctuation, you see. I often script my pauses to make sure I don't forget to include them and to slow me down. So in my notes, it might say pause in red, or sometimes big pause. And now I'm coming to the most important point that I'm going to make all night. And this will make more difference to your success than anything else you can do. You ready for it? Big pause. Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Don't make the mistake of thinking you can wing it. Even the most impressive speakers need to practice. Do it out loud, do it standing up, and do it often, every day for a week if you can. Remember, if the speech is important enough to give, it's important enough to practice. It makes a huge difference to your success. Every speech I give at Toastmasters, I practice at least 5 times, because being unprepared is one of the biggest contributors to anxiety. Practicing gives you a chance to really know your material, to tweak it until it's comfortable enough to deliver, and to check your timing. And any phrases that are really important, like your powers of three, for example, you can learn them so you deliver them as written. And the final area of focus is mindset. Now, I am no psychologist, but I know from experience that you can talk yourself into feeling positive or negative about things. I choose to feel positive. So here are some of the things I remind myself of that help me settle my nerves. Firstly, remember why you are there. You have been asked to speak because the audience is interested in what you have to say. Perhaps you're an expert on a particular subject, or you've got a story that will entertain. Either way, you are knowledgeable and enthusiastic about your subject, and you are qualified to talk about it. So you have credibility in the eyes of the audience. Secondly, and this is one that really helps me, you own the stage. For the length of your time, that time is yours. No one is going to tell you to shut up or leave the stage. No one's going to heckle you or interrupt. And once you've got this into your head, you can start enjoying your time on stage. It's a brilliant thing to remember when you use pauses. I remember doing a big speech at a conference once, and I felt that the script required an extensive pause, but in rehearsals, I never dared leave it long enough until someone said to me, "What are you worrying about? No one is going to break the silence. Pause as long as you want." And knowing that gives you freedom to use your time, to pause, to walk about, to ask rhetorical questions and wait for the audience to think of the answer. Much better than rushing through the speech and getting off the stage as fast as you can. Another thing that people worry about is what happens if they forget their words or they lose their way. Well, practicing obviously will help you avoid that, but just remind yourself, nobody knows what you're going to say. If I miss a bit out of this speech, you'll never know. Only I will know. So don't worry about missing a bit out or telling it in the wrong order. And then finally, going back to what I learned at my sister's wedding, nobody wants you to fail. The audience is on your side, and in my experience, is usually very forgiving. So 3 things to focus on when overcoming nerves. Content, think about what you want your audience to think, feel, and do, and then write a speech accordingly. Delivery, practice, practice, practice until you get it right. And mindset, be positive and enjoy the experience. Now imagine this scene, a softly lit room full of people, all dressed up to the nines, wine flowing, music playing, the hubbub of friendship filling the air. This time, it's me that stands up to speak. I'm thanking everyone for coming to my daughter's 18th birthday party, telling jokes, capturing the bon vivant of the evening, enjoying the moment. I'd like to finish by encouraging everyone to take the opportunity to speak when it's offered. Join a club like Toastmasters where you can practice in a safe, supportive environment and get helpful advice on how to improve. And take every opportunity to speak, whether it's at work or socially. You'll be amazed how much easier it gets when you do it more often. Like anything in life, stand up and speak.
Wow. Sharon, thank you. That was a masterclass, to the point that I'm going to go back and review that 2 or 3 times. The bits that came out for me was the practice element. If you use the example of Steve Jobs, so Steve Jobs, the mercurial founder of Apple, I'm sure you know this, Sharon. I'm sure some of the other folk on this broadcast will know this, that he used to practice for a week before he would do a major launch of an iPhone, of an iPad. And he wanted the whole stage set up a week before so that he could rehearse, practice. In some ways, Sharon, I think you're the lady equivalent of Steve Jobs, because we've just learned so much from you. And Toastmasters Toastmasters. So Toastmasters, has that been your route to success in the respect of public speaking?
No, I actually only joined Toastmasters a year ago. When I was working for Frontier, I had a lot of opportunities to stand up and speak. We used to do big conferences. I did a lot of presentations and so on. So I was speaking, week in, week out, really, in that job. And when I left Frontier 18 months ago and started to work for myself, after 2 or 3 months, I realized that I hadn't stood up and spoken in public since I left Frontier. And I you got to use it or lose it. So I decided I needed to do something about that. So I joined Toastmasters in September last year, and I'm now president. And it's not because I'm marvelous at it, just because there are very few people that want the responsibility. So we meet every Monday evening, and I speak most Mondays.
Wow. So Sharon, is that a bit like life begins at the end of your comfort zone? Do you think we should all be encouraged to host a webinar, or go to our boss or something socially and say, I would like to speak at the next event, to really put ourselves out, to sort of get, is it a bit like jogging or any other sport? So you've got to get that initial level of fitness, so then you're away, because it sounds like you did that very much so with Toastmasters, that you got going. And you had that lovely neutral, protective environment where they could coach you and to point you in the right direction. Should we be all pushing ourselves a little bit further to go that extra mile, so that we can all learn to speak publicly with confidence?
I think if you're a nervous speaker, then it's quite a big ask to say, go and volunteer to speak at something that would probably be certainly looking back to when I was nervous, putting myself forward for speaking would have been beyond where I was able to do, really. But if someone says, would you mind just giving a toast, or just saying grace at the beginning of a meal, or anything that makes you stand up and do it, you should say yes. I think if you've got beyond your initial nerves and you're in a position where you want to get good at public speaking, then yes, volunteer, take opportunities, stand up and do presentations at work, do a toast at someone's party, offer to, just stand up and speak. Honestly, the nerves do eventually disappear. And one of the things that Toastmasters is so good at, I sound like I'm pushing Toastmasters quite a lot here, but it's not so much the Toastmasters club as the opportunity to speak regularly, and in an environment where if you mess it up, it really doesn't matter. So we have these meetings on Monday evenings, and the format of the meeting generally is that we start with impromptu speaking. We call it table topics, and someone is the table topic master, and they ask questions, and they might say, might have a really easy one like, what's the best holiday you ever went on? And then they'll say, and that question goes to Max. Wow. And then you have to stand up and speak for 2 minutes on that subject, and you're timed. And there might be 10 people that stand up and do that. And then the second part of the meeting is the prepared speeches, and they're generally 5, 6, 7 minutes long. And then the third part of the meeting is the evaluation, and everybody who has stood up and spoken gets evaluated by another member, and people praise you for the things you did well, and they give you recommendations as to how you can improve for the future. And with new speakers or new members, we're always quite gentle. And then when you get to when they evaluate me, they're always quite tough.
And when we push the record of this out, is it okay if we put the Toastmasters website up so that people can have a look at it and hopefully get involved? Absolutely,
yes. Worldwide, there are 16,200 Toastmasters clubs, and there are 373 in the UK. So lots and lots of, you won't be very far away from one wherever you are. But it doesn't have to be Toastmasters, just do it at work, do it in, offer to give a talk at your local WI or your gardening society or your whatever it is you enjoy.
question before Kirsty in a minute is going to play this great video that is a great mashup of some of the members of the group on their views on public speaking. So Kirsty, if you could get ready to play that in about 15-20 seconds. Sharon, just another question for you. A number of people I know are actually finding presenting, talking on Zoom or Teams meeting quite difficult. There's a great friend of mine, a very gregarious lady who holds a fairly high-powered role within a big major business, and she's used to standing up in front of 400 growers, doing presentations to retailers. She cannot abide to the point of avoiding having to do presentations on Zoom. Are you finding that there's this odd misconnect with this new virtual world that we're in terms of presentation?
Well, I spend my life on Zoom at the moment, and obviously we do Toastmasters on Zoom as well. I think one of the mistakes people make on Zoom is that they look at the screen rather than the camera. And if you look at the screen, you don't engage with your audience, and if you look at the camera, you do. So what you need to do is, you can remind yourself. Sometimes it's quite hard to remember, if I look at you now, I'm looking there, and if I look at the camera, I'm looking at you. But of course, you don't get the feedback from the other people if you're staring at the camera. So what I did to train myself to look at the camera was I got a coloured circle and I stuck it around the camera and put little eyes on it, and then that's the person I'm talking to. So here I am. I don't have the little face here, otherwise I'd take it off and show you, but I look at the little eyes on the next to the camera, and then I'm talking to my little pink person.
But I think we talked about it when we initially got in contact a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of professional comedians who've tried to do comedy events on the likes of Zoom, and they really struggle because they don't get that interaction. And what you were saying about looking at someone, or if you're not happy to look at them, just look above their head, because they'll still think that you're looking at them. So that great idea about having a red circle round the camera so you know where you're looking at, I think it's a fantastic idea. Sharon, let's get into these videos and see what you think of the other ladies. So Sharon, if you could turn off your video and your audio, then we'll bring you back in after the video. Kirsty, are you okay to play the video, please?
Okay, it's a super misty morning here in the wilds of Norfolk, reflecting on public speaking and the skills of public speaking. And I think the worst piece of advice I've ever been given on public speaking is that you need to keep everybody in the room happy. It's a thankless task and actually impossible task. You can pretty much guarantee, and we're talking about real life rather than virtual here, that somebody in the room is going to be on their phone, somebody on the room is going to know nothing about what you're talking about or not care at all. And I think if you set yourself up to try and make everybody engage, you will be disappointed. So I find that the simplest thing to do, particularly if you're nervous, is to find one person. Just focus on one person in the audience and how you can make them happy and engage them in your story. And if you begin to find one person, you might find two, make eye contact with them, they will be supporting you, and you can have that relationship one-on-one with that person, and they will be encouraging you because they want you to succeed. Nobody wants you to fail. Everybody wants you to succeed. And if you build out one at a time, it's a much more effective approach than trying to be super entertaining for the whole crowd. It's just hopeless. That's my top tip.
Making these little videos has probably been more nerve-wracking than a lot of the public speaking that I've had to do. Because usually it's something that I quite enjoy. It's just another type of performance, nerve-wracking beforehand maybe, but once you're up there and you can see people in the audience and start to make eye contact with someone who's engaging, then you can feed off that energy and it's good fun. Whereas with this, I'm just looking at my face on screen and I've no idea what any of you are thinking. And I think that's the challenge that we're having to adjust to, moving to communicating in a digital way, is missing those indications like body language when you're running a Zoom meeting and trying to check that everyone's engaged and there isn't someone who'd like to ask a question but isn't sure how to break in. And something that I think is really helpful in these situations is to actually make more space than you would normally in a presentation or a meeting, so you get a chance to get additional feedback, and if people want a question, they have the space to do that.
So confidence in speaking for me is about really knowing your subject and being comfortable to be able to talk about it. Being comfortable about what you've been asked to say. Structuring your piece, trying to be fairly sharp and give a clear message. Then doing a bit of practicing, ideally videoing it, and being sort of critiquing yourself well so that you have chance and time to come out with a great product. In my case, it's generally about pace. I can sometimes go a bit too fast, and also try and inject a bit of humour and maybe a bit of a story so that it comes across with a nice human interface. Okay.
Public speaking. Well, first of all, is the ability to do it at all, and then there is the ability to do it well. I used to be terrified of speaking out even in a meeting, and at Mars my boss pulled me aside and said if I wasn't going to contribute in meetings, she wasn't going to invite me to them anymore. And ever since then I have tried to make sure that I contribute, probably early on, because I've probably got something to say, but if you wait then somebody else has made the best point, and that got me more and more confident in speaking. So, and then it's just a matter of doing it and recognising that you are hugely competent in the field that you've been asked to talk about. You know far more than everybody else in the room, and they all want to hear what you've got to say. But you have to prepare. Prepare, practice, get friends to help you, do whatever you can. And even now, even though I speak frequently to groups of hundreds of people, I still get that little adrenaline rush beforehand, and that is vital because that's what keeps you focused. And sometimes I actually deliberately go out without any notes in order to make sure that I get that adrenaline rush, because you then remember what you've said, and then when you've finished, it's absolutely exhilarating. So I think my message to everybody is you've got to have a go, you've got to start somewhere, and the secret is to prepare. And if you've got a friend like Sharon that will help you prepare a eulogy, help you prepare a TED Talk, make best use of them, because she's been a huge help to me. Thank you.
Recent developments, I think, has meant for some people that public speaking is taking on a whole new format for them, one that they're not necessarily used to doing. I, for one, used to really enjoy speaking publicly. I enjoyed making that connection with people. However, I now feel that when I speak, I'm much more focused on myself than I am the audience. You can't make that same connection with people. You can't read people's body languages as well. I especially like to move around quite a lot when I speak. I'm quite a physical communicator. And that's been really difficult during this new age of everything being online. It has, however, had benefits in that it's opened up me to wider audiences, and I'm being able to learn from a lot more people. I still think the most important things around public speaking are being confident in your own knowledge and expertise, and also having the faith that people want to hear what you've got to say, and that your thoughts and opinions have value and worth. And if you have to adapt about how you communicate those things, it's worth putting in that effort. It's worth learning some different skill sets.
I have not had a huge amount of experience in public speaking, but I have noticed distinct similarities with my singing exploits. I have sung with choirs in front of thousands of people at venues such as Carnegie Hall in New York, Royal Albert Hall in London, and the Usher Hall in Edinburgh. My family always ask me how I have the confidence to walk out on stage and sing. I'd say there were three main factors. Firstly, being prepared, knowing the piece by heart. Even if I have the sheet music in front of me, I only use it for cues rather than actually reading it. Having confidence in my ability, knowing that I wouldn't have been chosen to sing if I wasn't good enough. Similarly, you have been asked to present because people think you are knowledgeable on the subject. Finally, keep going. I have made many mistakes whilst on stage, but on the whole, no one will ever know if you carry on as if nothing has happened. An audience will remember the content and the way you presented and not the mistakes you made. So, my tips are knowing the presentation back to front, being confident, and keep calm and carry on.
Wow. Wow. Can we have back in Christine, Eve, Emily, if you're there, Camilla, Debbie, and of course Sharon. Or if I say Kirsty as well. That was although I spent a bit of the weekend putting that video together, actually having a look at it and marrying that up with Sharon's talk presentation. I thought, well, Sharon, what did you think? What do you think of the video?
Well, I was very glad that they all agreed with me.
Yeah, so it seems to be the key points is as Christine says, is practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, it makes such a difference. It really does.
Yeah, Christine, having heard Sharon and seen the other group members on the video, have you got anything else to add over and above practice, practice, practice?
I think having somebody else listen to what you've got to say as part of your practice is important, because when Sharon helped me on a eulogy, she I got to the end, and I thought it was quite good actually. I talked about all of these things that I've done with this person. And she said, do you really want to know what I think? I said, yes. And she said, it's all about you. And it's all about your experience of that person. And she helped me change it. So things like I asked Nick to speak at my hen party became Nick spoke at my hen party. And it was quite interesting. I was able to the stories were all the same, but she helped me put them in a way that it was about the person I was talking about as opposed to about me.
Got it. And Camilla, your background, by the way, was lovely. I presume that was somewhere near Spalding, Camilla.
I don't know how you guessed it so quick, Max. Right on the money.
So yours was also fascinating. But do you think you're going to look to take this the right way, better yourself from what Sharon was saying earlier?
Yeah, I think definitely I'm very guilty of being a sort of last minute person, and generally I don't allow enough time to practice and rehearse talks, so sometimes they're getting written pretty soon before they need to occur. So definitely taking that on board to allow a bit more time to run things. I think it does allow things to go more smoothly, and you're not trying to remember, God, what's coming next? Or should I pause here? Should I not? My God, why did I write that? Yeah, that's probably my takeaway.
Well done. And Emily, what was the biggest audience that you've ever presented to, please?
The biggest audience I've ever presented to is also my worst online presenting experience, which was 1,300 people for the Savills. Oh my God, it's coronavirus. What's going to happen to the property market discussion, which was sometime in April. And as it came to me, so my colleagues did the bit on commercial property and residential property, and it came to me to talk about rural property. And my slides, my screen share crashed. Oh no. And I then tried to go and get my slides from where I thought I'd saved them on my desktop. But I clicked on the link which was accessing it from the network drive. And in my mind, I've got 1,300 people turning off. And the only thing I could do, and actually it's part of this mantra about practice, I had rehearsed that speech. I'm normally like, no, I know what I want to say. I don't need to practice it, but I'd rehearsed it. And I just went, I know what my slides say. I can talk for a minute and a half, which is how long it took for the slides to download and then be reshared. I can do this. And I just talked to what I knew my slides were saying. And then eventually my slides caught up with me, but it killed my confidence. And I'm not ashamed to say, like, my job is presenting for a living. I do this broadcasting for a living. Yeah. And it destroyed my confidence to the extent that I actually went to speak to a friend of mine who was a radio DJ for a while. Because I'm like, because normally you have the audience who are like, no, don't worry, somebody in the audience is like there on your side and they're looking after you and they're like, don't worry. And you get that kind of, somebody in the audience will care for you. But if you can't see anybody, it's just literally you and the dog and your inherent fear of what has just gone wrong. And she was like, broadcast, you just got to imagine someone, just imagine somebody there in the background, one person smiling at you, and then you're like, okay, then we can do this, we can make it up as we go along. And I think some of those skills, how they've changed through lockdown and through this kind of shift to online discussions, is really, really interesting in terms of how you reference your existence. Because even in this discussion now, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can't even add up, 7, 8 people, all of whom are smiling at me, but in the background, there are 43 people in total on this call who can't see us. If it's just you talking, it's really hard to have the confidence to keep going. And I think, you know, it is practice. It's practice that brings that.
And Emily, thank you. As you say, your job is presenting, and for you to actually show that even a superstar like you in the sector has a bad day, just shows that we're all human. So I think that's amazingly candid of you. Thank you.
I did have this hilarious moment. Sorry, not hijacking this, but you know, in different situations, you know how like that the after lunch slot at a conference is like the graveyard slot when you know you're fighting people who just want to fall asleep or whatever, they had a late night, whatever. I did a talk to a farmers club, a regional farmers club. So, you know, average age is probably 75. And the talk started at 7:30 in the evening, and I could log on and you could see 65 plus faces in the evening at 7:30, and they're all sat on their sofas and they've all got a drink in hand. And I'm thinking, bloody hell, I'm going to have to keep this lot awake at 7:30 in the evening whilst they're all sat on their sofas with a glass of something in hand. It's not even the after lunch slot at a conference. It's like, right, we can do this. Come on, feel the energy. And you have to kind of get yourself into that mode of like, yeah, whatever, you know, push it on.
Excellent. And Eve, do you think if I announce to you that you and I have gone to a conference and there's 500 people then, and one of the speakers has dropped out because of illness or whatever, and they need someone to cover for 20 minutes on a relevant subject on agriculture, so you got 10 minutes notice, do you think you'd be able to stand up and do that? 20 minutes, 500 people, go.
I feel like you're putting me on the spot at this point in the time as well.
You performed at the Albert Hall, so I know what the answer is going to be.
I could probably sing the Requiem or something. It'd probably make me feel better. But no, I think it would definitely depend on the subject. But yeah, I'd like to think I was able to, maybe. But I would spend that 10 minutes really like working out what the points were, jotting them down, having bullet points. And I would probably make a joke about it at the beginning. So I'd kind of say that I would just been brought on and to excuse any of the mistakes I made. So it kind of gets everyone on your side at the beginning.
I think it's a difficult one because Sharon and I talked about this when we caught up a couple of weeks ago. I think that's a great skill to have. But then I'm a bit like Emily in a way that I sort of do this for a living now. So Emily, Sharon, Christine, we should be able to do that, just to be able to stand up on impromptu basis. But it is Sharon, what do you think? Is it a good skill to have, or is it just asking too much of people to be able to stand up unannounced and keep a crowd, a relevant crowd, entertained for 20 minutes, half an hour?
I think it would be a marvelous skill for everybody to have, but I think it's a big ask. I think everyone should be able to talk on a subject for a couple of minutes, though, because you never know when you're going to be called upon to. I mean, one of the interesting things that one of our Toastmasters members said recently was that she was interviewing for a new job, and she treated every question as though it was a table topic, and she got offered the job. She said it was the easiest interview she'd ever done because she got so used to doing these table topics where you have to speak for 2 minutes on a subject that's just been given to you that actually the interview questions were really easy.
Wow, there you go. Kirsty, when you're presented or talking to, especially to the likes of MDS, if people don't know, Kirsty's part of the great MDS Management Development Services team. Kirsty, do you find that you have to gauge your audience very quickly within the first 30 seconds, 1 minute, and adapt your talk to suit? Or will you just bulldozer on what you've already prepared? And how would you proceed?
No, it is. I do think it's important to adapt as you go along. So I generally talk to two types of people: one, recent graduates, and one, so potential members that may be joining MDS. So people sort of well established within their careers, and they need a very different approach to both of them. In particular, the graduates that we have coming on, because we don't know them very well. We don't know what type of backgrounds they may be coming from, what sort of experiences. We may have interviewed them, but when we're doing induction and things with them, and we have to talk to them at length about what their next 2 years is going to be like. So having to adapt, but keep on that same track. So having the key points that you're going to have to cover, but making sure, if someone looks like they're dropping off, sort of pick up on that, realize when you might need to change things up, maybe put a question in there occasionally just to get people thinking. I think that sort of thing, it does help to be able to have that sort of at the back of your mind to say, right, this is my plan B if I do feel like I'm boring everyone to death.
Well, to have a plan B. Debbie, I don't know how to ask this question. Do you think when you've been presenting, because you're a lady, do you think you get a different reaction to say a bunch of farmers than if you're a man? Do you have to change your approach because of you're a lady rather than a man?
You can use it for the positive, can't you? Because you can come on as a bit of a novelty act and then try and deliver something serious. But you haven't really got to take it that seriously. I think if you're going to get up and say something, it's got to be something useful and positive, irrespective of where you're coming from. And just do it, and don't let anybody take you as a prisoner.
Yeah, Debbie, well done. I don't know about all of you, and I'm not being biased in the respect of this broadcast, but I think some of the best speeches I've seen delivered have been by ladies rather than men, because I think men haven't picked up on all the key points that Sharon mentioned earlier, especially on the practice bit. They think, I was going to give an example then. Oh, no, I'm going to. City Food Lecture, Compass Chairman. I don't know if any of you were there. It's a fascinating conversation, but someone else wrote it for him and he just read it out. And there was no love, no passion for it. God, I'm never going to get Compass as a client now. But that individual, I can't remember his name. He had an audience of 500 people, and he could have been so impactful if he'd done what all of you had said: practice, and actually believed that what he was saying. Christine, before we move over to the breakout groups, have you got anything that you would like to say to the group?
I don't think so. I'd just like to thank Sharon and to say that we will continue to meet on the first Tuesday of the month. And I've already got my speaker lined up for the next one. Same sort of format, presentation. We'll have a few little videos, different people doing the videos next time. Look forward to seeing you. And hopefully we'll have time now to do a short bit of networking, but maybe we'll try and get the balance. You've got more time to chat in your groups next time. Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. And everyone, just to say thank you again to Sharon. We'll set this up as a YouTube video so that you can all listen to Sharon again and take copious notes, as well as a podcast. So thank you for that. And Kirsty, can we move over to the breakout rooms, please?
Absolutely. Moving you all over now.
Fantastic. Well done, everyone.